Welcome, sisters, to another one of our community interviews for our Return of the Priestess community. Today, we are going to be talking about rewriting the narrative to your soul path with my dear sister, priestess friend, Kris Olivas, LMFT, licensed marriage and family therapist. Kris, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello. It was so good to see you, Dawn. Thanks
So
for
good.
inviting me.
Yes, I'm happy to have this conversation. You have a rich array of tools and ways that you work with people. So I would love to begin, first of all, by tell us a little bit about what you do, and then maybe backtrack into how that has morphed into a very spiritual practice that you have with your clients. And yeah, give us that background story, that journey.
Yeah. Well, so I am a licensed therapist, but I integrate energy psychology techniques as well as shamanic principles and alternative practices, sound healing, uh, inner child work, soul journeys, quantum journeys. So all of that is intuitively guided as people come into the session. But I've gotten away from just strict psychotherapy, working on what I would talk, and I don't mean that as a down thing because we're all in 3D, but getting away from just that 3D resolution, moving people actually more from just the problems they're having. They're coming in with anxiety, depression, whatever the relationship issue is, but really wanting them to uh, actually evolve into a higher frequency, right? And by doing so, a higher version of themselves. So, and this all came through my own experience because, I was thinking, but I have like Kris part one, two, three, four, five. I have all these parts of my life that are so distinctly different. And this part of my life is the one where I'm taking people into more of that journey to their soul path. And it's just been natural. Some of it's been forced upon me because I'm stubborn, and so I've had life give me the kick in the pants to get me on my path. Um,
And
yeah.
so,
So
So when you started, did you already have a inclination towards spirituality or feminine spirituality, or is that something that came in later?
yeah, it came in later. So I went back to school when I was 39 years old, and I had an AA, which had taken me 4 years to get, and it just about killed me because I was a full-time working mom and going to school full-time at night with two little children. So I was just burnt out, and I was married, but my husband just didn't know how to support me, or it was just something not happening in my life. So I just said it wasn't meant to be for me, and it wasn't until I went through a divorce that I decided to go back to school. So I was just kind of trying to get out of the muck at that time in my life. And I went through my bachelor's and decided at that point to go on to the master's in therapy. Um, and that's where I actually, for the first time, felt like I found my home. But I had just a legit psychotherapy practice since 2000, say 7, in terms of private practice. I had been a therapist since 2004, but it wasn't until I actually had my dark night of the soul, which so many of us I think have. It's a crisis that is the catalyst often for many of us, especially if you're a light worker and you're not on path. So a lot of times when people come in to see me and they're in crisis, I'm thinking, oh, well, here's your catalyst. You're here to wake up. And so my waking up came through an autoimmune issue, which was like an eczema. They called it eczema, but it was more than that. It was a very painful swelling, cuts. It was growing. It was all over my body. I was in extreme pain, itching. And I went through all the doctors and everything, but they basically, Western medicine said, well, some people get eczema and that's just what you're going to live with the rest of your life. So
Wow.
that was like my dark night of the soul because I did not want to live at that point um, that way. And so I was like 2017. And through synchronistic events, I ended up shaman invited me to go with her in a group to Peru, and in Peru to do plant medicine. And in Peru, I had the spiritual awakening, and that set me on this course. And that is a whole other show in itself, because it was such a mind-blowing experience of moving me into awareness, that when I came back, I actually didn't know what to do with it, because I didn't have people, I wasn't surrounded by people that I am like now. I was, coming back into the world again, and I was being given this information of what I was here to do. So it took me about another year. I met you in 2019, and that was another catalyst to stepping into the work that I'm supposed to do I don't know why I even signed up for that training with you, to be honest. And I think that's somehow the ways that I've been coming to things, is just deciding I'm going to go do this. But
Was that your first big international travel that brought you to a priestess type
oh,
gathering?
absolutely. I didn't even know what a priestess was. Like I said, I don't know why it came. I have no idea. But yeah, I came to that event, and that was another catalyst for me. So what happened was, as things started to open up, I just started to have downloads, visions. The visions became very strong, and they were there to get my attention. So all of this happening over this period of time, 2017, they just kept evolving, and I just continued to evolve through people coming into my life. I opened a center. It was called Center for Counseling and Integrative Healing, and I started with my friend, we started doing all kinds of workshops. So that was when the center was 2015 actually, but with all of these other events happening, that started me really integrating. And that the knowing and the priestess work and the divine feminine work, that came as a result of downloads. So that was just getting messages of things that I knew without knowing, and then having them confirmed. And you were a big part of that too, because a lot of the messages you were talking about were messages that I was getting. And so it was a lot of validation happening in my life as I was working with you, and then more and more people that came into my life. I started to understand that this is not just by accident.
Right.
I'm really here to, do this work and help people get there.
And so you mentioned the word rogue before we spoke. So I wanted to kind of bring us into now. We talked about clearing the shadow, healing the wounded child, rewriting the narrative to your soul's path, and this sort of triumph story, and bringing in your, going rogue from sort of standard Western therapy. So, talk a little bit speak into this whole concept of rewriting the narrative to your soul path, and how you, as a licensed, sorry, I don't know these things, as an LMFT,
Yeah.
a rogue LMFT,
Yeah.
are working with people, and what that journey is like, and the sorts of people you're now magnetizing to you, which is different than the ones you used to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a point when in my center, I realized I was here to do this work, and I actually put the call out, and I said, bring me the light workers. And what I mean by light workers is I wanted people who were asleep and were destined to wake up to be part of this catalyst of leading us into this new earth. And so very quickly, people start coming in, and they wouldn't know anything about light worker or anything about spirituality, but I would interview to make sure they understood I was going to be doing this energy work. I'm really working. So there's the 4 subtle bodies. There's the physical / etheric body, right? Then we have the emotional, mental, and spiritual. Then I would say those are the 4 that I'm addressing. And the 2 main ones that I work with are the emotional and mental subtle bodies. So I'm clearing the energy of the trapped emotions in the body, and that is through Dr. Bradley Nelson's work, The Emotion Code. I'm a certified emotion code practitioner. And the emotions get trapped in our body anytime we've had to hold them in and not express them fully. And most of us were never taught how to express emotions in a very healthy way. And as children, especially the older generations that we go back, children often silenced if they had a feeling.
Yeah.
So that just automatically begins to trap this energy in our body. So one of them is to remove. Now, if we have trauma, it is even more accentuated in our field. And then the mental body is our thought system. Now, one of the things I learned when I was in Peru is that this thought system has been hijacked. And so we are, humanity is largely programmed. So we don't even know that we're not thinking our own thoughts. Mm-hmm. So our thoughts begin to loop. And what people, when they come in with anxiety or depression, they're really stuck in a thought loop and they can't get out of it. So when I'm doing this other method, it's called advanced integrative therapy that was developed by a psychologist, Dr. Asha Clinton. And what we do is we clear patterns. And what I found was we could actually clear patterns from past lives as well as your ancestral line. Huh. So we actually will go back. Once we start to clear enough out of your family of origin, we'll start to go back, because when we clear your past life and ancestral lines, we actually help clear the collective. So a lot of this work I'm doing right now is collective work, because people, they've done enough work, and now when we clear that ancestral line, that's held in the energy field of this planet. So those two areas, we clear patterns of thinking, so you can think a new thought, right, without being trapped in the loop. And you clear the energy of the emotion, which the emotion is what is really driving behavior. And that frees up for your higher self, the higher version of you, to actually begin to anchor in. And what happens is people just naturally begin, they'll quit jobs, not just quit on the spot, but they'll just knowingly go, this is not right for me. They'll leave relationships that are very dysfunctional and abusive that they've never thought of leaving before. They'll do actions that are naturally guided, because once you have the trauma and the lower vibrational energies cleared from your field, you no longer have to be pushed onto your path. You now feel, and this is when you get to what the work, when you worked enough on your shadow, you feel guided. You see synchronicities pop in. You just have a knowing. Now I just kind of have a sense, like, do I go this way? Oh, that feels a little bit like that feels a block. This feels more like the way. So you sense and you feel into what you need to do next, and you get out of this part, which is always comparing and contrasting, trying to figure it out. Yeah. So the next step, so that all being done, that's that shadow work in which we're clearing. You're naturally beginning to drop in, the higher self is beginning to drop in. But there's another piece that I think this is where the therapist part is really important, and that is to help people rewrite their narrative. Because many of us, I was really locked into my story of being a victim. And it was kind of like my badge of honor. Look what they did to me, right? And as a result, I was holding on to something that was not going to serve me. I'm not a victim. I'm a soul that chose the family system that I chose in order to learn, heal, and transcend it into the next. So that's the narrative that we need to be looking at. If somebody's really wanting to hold on to it, I just kind of go through and we loop back around again to why did you, because sometimes people get really down on themselves for mistakes, Yeah. Like, why did I parent that way? A lot of times, us moms, we get to the other side, our 30-some-year-old kids, and we're like, oh, darn it, I wish I could be the mom now. So much more of this, but rewriting that narrative to one that understands with compassion the journey that we chose allows us then to move into the next, because we don't hold back on ourselves for doing something wrong. So, and that, by the way, is that natural step. You are usually at that point, if you're not on your soul path, you are unfolding everything as you're getting closer to it, and you sense it now. And I think people come into your lives. I'm surrounded now by amazing, very wise and spiritual sisters. I have a very strong sisterhood, and by the way, your retreat was the beginning of that. Of having a sisterhood and knowing what that is, right?
And knowing what that is, yeah, because that's a part of our really the rewriting of the narrative, the coming into the soul alignment. Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
This is a beautiful, thank you for really walking us through that process and that experience that is, of how you journey with your clients. And you work primarily one-on-one right now, is that right? Or do you lead events as well, or?
Yeah, I am currently in the process of developing this, in which I'm going to bring together groups of women,
Uh-huh.
not just women. Actually, there's we really need to have a space for our divine masculine, because
Yes,
they are waking up, and
they
so
are.
they'll need a place to go, and we can hold space for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely am planning to create some group type of mastermind groups in which people can come together, and I believe we activate each other. So bringing people together to activate. But currently, yeah, one-on-one is the main source of income, the way that I am
Yeah.
working.
Beautiful. So, we talked about you offering us an experience, and you thought maybe perhaps a reading, because you do work with cards, and I love the way you work with cards. So, do you wanna give us something here?
Yes, actually, because I did draw before our session, and I was asking, what are the what is the message for the collective, right? What are we here to do? What is going on? So the first card that came out, this, by the way, I always like to share what deck, so people, if they're interested in it. So this one's called Chakra Deck. So they want to Rachel Sharman. So the first card that came out was, oops, wrong way. The first card that came out was the I Am Presence. And what is really we're being called on as a collective is to move beyond these old stories of limitation. That's again, the shadow work is allowing us to get beyond this old limitation. Like I had said, that we do a lot of staying stuck in our story, especially our family and our parents and our siblings and whatever society did to us. So, but moving into the I Am Presence is your soul path. So we're being called to step into our soul path, which is light, holding light. And one of the ways and the directions, and I thought this is so fitting because this is a lot of the work I'm doing, is the inner child, clearing that shadow, clearing the wounds, allowing the playfulness, the joy to return. The childlike state is actually one in which we have lost sight of. There's a saying that, don't be childish.
Yeah.
And what we missed when we started to teach children to grow up and stop acting like a child was we actually started to dismiss the whole wonder, the state of creativity and wonder and awe and joyfulness and spontaneity, and that is missing. And so we need to be more childlike, and also we need to clear a lot of the old wounding that is keeping us trapped in our story. And then the visualization. This is the third eye, if you can see right here.
Yeah.
The third eye. We are being called upon to move more into our intuitive guidance system. So we are heavily, that we talk about the patriarchal side of humanity. We're heavily left brain analytical. But what I find when people come to see me is that analytical part of a brain is beautiful, but it is not really designed to to be led and guided. It's designed
Right.
to compare and contrast.
Yeah.
So when you have just the mind doing the compare and contrast, and you've not listened to the heart, not listened to the guidance, you often will feel lost, and that's where we see people with high anxiety because they're overthinking what to do, and what we're being asked to do is to actually, trust your dream state, move into meditation, move into visualizations. And that's one thing I do teach is teach people how to use their imaginative state in order to go in and be guided through the subconscious, and that's the inner childhood. And then the
Beautiful.
last one I picked from this book here, this Secret Language of Light, really awesome book. They have meditations in it, and and I just thought that was a beautiful message here of
Beautiful.
joy, really to be in our joy-like state because we chose to come here. You
Hmm.
know, this is a beautiful paradise, obviously been hijacked, but it is designed to be a beautiful paradise, one in which we can evolve and expand love and expand light. And so that's the joy, and I love the way the light radiates
Ah,
out from
gorgeous. Yeah.
Merkaba. So be in the joyful state of awe and wonder. I kind
Mm,
of feel like
a little child.
these right here, like it's really perfect, when you think the inner child being the childlike wonder of joy, but also that is another state of the I am, right?
Yeah.
The I am is the I am is that joyful state. It's not so serious. The angels actually have a great sense of humor. So it's fun
Wow.
to
What a
stay young.
beautiful message. Thank you. Wow, beautiful. Yeah. Just to reiterate, the I am presence, the clearing the shadow and the wounds with the inner child to have that innocence again, that childlike trust, and then getting into our creativity and trusting the dream state so that we can really return to joy, return to the happiness, to the purity of who we are as beings beyond the constructs of the trauma imprinting and conditioning of this world.
I love the way you summarize that. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Wow.
So easily
Mm.
said, and yet it's this kind of tricky journey, but it doesn't have to be. We have enough really wise ones out there who are doing such a beautiful job in helping.
Yeah, we have
Um,
momentum now.
yes.
Beautiful. So if people want to work with you, Kris, how would they get in touch with you? Do you have a website to share
Yes, I would probably yeah, they can find my number on integrativeshamans.com.
or
I'm in process of switching over to another website, but let's go ahead and go with integrative shamans with the S on the end.com.
integrative.com?
And they'll
Okay.
see my number there
I'll
and go
put
ahead
that
and,
below in the
yep. My
right.
email is co-create balance. That's KO create balance at Gmail. And absolutely would love to hear from any of our viewers and any other
Great.
comments.
Well, thank you so much for being willing to share with us today and for your sacred work in the world. And sisters, thank you so much for joining us, those of you who are watching, and many blessings on your really return to innocence and joy.
Yeah.
Mwah.
Thank
Thank
you, Dawn. Thank you for
you.
what you do. Love
Thank
you.
you. Love you.